sometimes when you meet people, these deeper conversations just become so easy.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Yeah!
What do you think it takes to create long-lasting friendships?
Constant communication, that's for sure. I always have to be there for the person, check in on them during the good times and the bad times. In my opinion, if you want to have like a long lasting friendship with somebody, because we've both lived in other places. Like I'm originally from Georgia, and there are some people who I haven't seen in a year, not physically anyways. And dude, on the way over here today, I called a guy who I haven't seen in months, but he's still like a good friend of mine. And I always want to have a long lasting friendship with this guy. So I call and check in on him. Hey man, how you doing? How's your daughter doing? How's your mom and dad? I call them every week, maybe every other week. Always have constant communication with these people, check in on them, ask them about their life, just be there for them.
Making that effort to actually reaching out to them
Yeah.
and letting them know that you are still here, even if it's not a daily conversation. I like that. I believe in it as well. TJ is one of two people, and TJ does it more regularly. Whenever I leave to go out on a job, on a boat, and I'm gone for periods of time, he has always, since we met, has always been the one that reaches out and is like, hey man, I was driving down the street. I thought I'd like reach out to you to see how it's going. How's the new job, or how's the boat? How's the staff? What's going on? And from the person receiving that, at the beginning, like I would light up, like I would really feel good inside myself. Cause I'm like, wow, this friend of mine, because we always tend to think all of the people that we're friends with really value you for the same way that you might value them.
Yeah.
But then when you do, like, there's a thing that said like, disappear for a few months to see who truly is your friends. And that's an absolute fact, and a couple of the other guys do on occasion, like send out a message, and I'll text or call someone. And then the other one, Stevie Brown?
Yeah, he's a bartender.
He was bartending back in the day at the pub, and then came and gone a few times here, but he moved back recently to Boston. Shout out to Stevie. Same thing. Like him and I will do exactly that. And what I think is an important thing to create or keep a long lasting friendship with someone is being completely honest with how you're feeling about the person, because us men have a lot of stigma still in 2025 as to how we can communicate or how we can discuss certain topics. And I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, like when Stevie or TJ and I talk on the phone, or sometimes we have like a 3-way phone call and we're all in 3 different cities. The end of the conversation is always, I love you guys. I miss you. Can't wait till we get to hang out again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very important thing, is like, we are of an age that well, I'm a bit older than you, but like, I don't want to say I'm halfway through my life, but like kind of am, I'm 47. So like, getting to 90, getting to 100, which I'm really putting in effort to do so. I don't want to waste any more of my time not telling the people that I'm friends with how I feel about them.
Of course.
And I think that's like a huge thing. When it comes to starting, like as men, let's say, starting a new friendship with another man, like what do you think happens? Like how do you think you create a new friendship with somebody that you haven't yet kind of like hung out with?
Start slow at first, I got to feel just me. This is again, me personally. I feel like I gotta feel the person out to see if we're on the same wavelength, if that makes sense. Because there are some people that you might meet like, oh, he seems like a good guy. Then you get to know him and you're like, maybe we don't have the same values or the same interests or anything like that. But once I know, like, okay, this guy's cool, just start shooting the shit with them. And I think I think it's a certain guy thing. Some guys will kind of pick on each other a little bit, little trash talk here and there. And I think it builds the bond even tighter. And then, man, just go from there. I just check in on them. Hey, man, what's up? What are you doing tonight? What's going on? How's everything? How you feeling? Good like that. And then it's pretty organic from there.
Yeah.
just grow, and that's it, man.
Well, like we were talking a bit before we got on camera here, your friendship, you said for 10 years with Tim.
Yeah,
Tim the Grim
the Grim Creeper.
Creeper.
Shout out to Tim.
Oh, I love that, man. He's so funny. But like, how did that friendship start? Because now, for people out there that have not met Tim yet, like Tim's a very tall, very muscular, also into the MMA fighting and whatnot. And Tim can be an intimidating person if you don't know him, because the
Yeah.
job he had back when I met him was, he's a bouncer, and that's the job, right? The
Yeah.
job is to be intimidating, to make sure shit doesn't pop off. But how did you guys create or start the friendship that has now been 10 years?
Well, for one, we started bouncing together downtown. I mean, this is 10 years ago now, and we were around each other 4 days a week, 3, 4 days a week, all night long, kicking people out, making sure, the rooftop went smooth and we had no issues, and just built a relationship from there. Started talking about fighting, MMA. I said, "Hey, you should go check out a gym, this and that." Then he started fighting MMA, which made our friendship even closer. And yeah,
Finding a common ground almost as to interests that you both share kind of like sparked it, because you worked like at that establishment. There was always, like, on the busy nights, there was always probably about, I want to say, half a dozen bouncers
yeah.
that you probably aren't 10 years later still friends with.
Tim's really the only one.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, obviously, any of the other guys from back then, if I ever see him around town anymore, I'm like, "Hey, man, what's up?" But it's more just a, "Hey, how you doing?" And, I keep it moving. But Tim's really the only guy that I'm like, still like, he's one of my best friends. And
So what has it been then? Because I really want, from this episode, I want other men who might not have a handful of good guys that they can count on to understand, like, what they can do themselves to kind of either create a friendship with a complete stranger or to keep one going. Because, you've come and gone also, like in the 10 years that, you've
yeah.
been here. And, Tim also has had a very busy life, and he's come and gone from different jobs. What how have you guys cultivated that friendship where, like, I found out recently, like, Tim is in your corner at every fight that you have?
Yeah.
And that's remarkable for someone to, like, whatever he might be doing, he finds the time to not be doing what
Yeah.
he's doing to come to a fight, which is not always known when it's going to be.
Yeah. Like, even last fight, I fought in Philadelphia. He bought a plane ticket, bought a hotel room. He came up there just to support. And that's just a good friend, And even, like, my coach this past weekend was like, "That's a good guy." Like, he's
Fuck
a
yeah.
real one for, coming up to this fight and being there for my weight cut. If you follow MMA or anything, you know how hard that can be. He was there for all of that. He was there for every step of the way, get into the fight. He was there cage side and everything.
What ingredients do you think allowed for that recipe of a friendship to be cultivated to that level, though? Like, someone hopping on a plane to go see your match.
Yeah.
That's other level friendship.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of friends that I have. They're like, too much money, too much time away from my job or my family or anything like that. But he's just ride or die. And I will say that they're few and far between like that.
Yeah.
Few and far between. And I think you cultivate that type of friendship over, like, years of being friends, years of, like, bonding with each other, hanging out, going through thick and thin. And as dumb as this might sound, but, we worked in nightclubs together. We kick people out. We've had busy nights, hectic nights, nights where bad things have happened. And even recently, we still somewhat work at the same job because he does armed security and I work inside the building. So I still see him on a quite frequent basis. And man, I'm always talking to the guy, always seeing him. We're always around each other, always shooting the shit, talking, cracking jokes. And it keeps the friendship alive, keeps it going. You got to check on him. That's pretty much
So
it.
let's get into the side of it when it comes to men and the stigma of what the friendship is. I mean, I have the same thing, like I said, with TJ. The whole audience knows this because he's mentioned in almost every episode I've done. TJ's episode is going to be our 100th episode that we post.
Nice.
But the what I say helps our friendship is the fact that there's been a level of trust that has been built, that him and I both have shared stuff with each other that very few, if nobody else knows about in that time and moment that we were going through it. And men, unfortunately, we're shamed, we're shunned, we're made fun of from bigger communities if we are tapped into a more sensitive side of ourselves where we can share the hard things in life and maybe even like get emotional during those conversations. And
Yeah.
I personally, like with the kid, I open up no matter what, good or bad, that's happening. And over our friendship of the better part of almost 15 years, he's been able to reciprocate the same thing. Like emotional conversation between men is not unheard of. And it really does like kind of like tighten that bond for me. I assume that you and Tim have had at times those
Of
conversations.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when anyone that's a good friend to you, that you can really have those conversations. And you have to, because otherwise I think it's very like superficial. Of course. I'm sure you have, maybe you don't call them friends, but they're more of acquaintances, that it's the conversation is very like surface level. But then when whether it's TJ or anybody like that, you can really have a deeper conversation like, hey, how's everything going? Like, but how's it really going?
Like, how are you actually doing?
How are you actually doing? Not like, hey, how are you? And you're like, good. And you move on to the next thing. It's like, no, how are you actually doing? How's everything? How's your girl? How's your family? So on and so forth from there.
And I think that comes from the individual's ability to be vulnerable. And it doesn't matter who goes first, but if one of you has that ability to be vulnerable enough and share with someone where that trust gets built, where they're not gonna, you know, share that information with someone else,
Yeah.
they then feel safe enough that they can too also like lean on you in those conversations. I've had our other buddy Stevie Brown. I'm not afraid to be honest
Mhm.
with my friends. I'm not worried if the friendship will be lost
Yeah.
if I'm being honest with them as to how they're being,
Mhm.
because if it's a true friendship, the friendship won't be lost. So having that ability to be blunt,
Mhm.
to kind of call them out in whatever it is they might be doing that they don't think that they're doing wrong, but like showing them or letting them know where they could be accountable for part of that
Of
happening.
course.
I think that's where the true friendships come, because there is a lot of surface level conversations with people when it's like, hey, how you doing? And like no one like you don't really care.
Yeah.
There's just like it just shows.
Yeah, it's just this formal thing you do. You just say it, and you just keep going.
And that it's unfortunate because I feel like as we mature through our journeys, we get lost in the idea of being popular
Mhm.
at times, and especially in the industries and in the venues that we in our current or past have done. We're in an area where like I always attest like the bar scene to being kind of like there's a sitcom called Cheers back in the day.
Know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. And Norm, that Norm syndrome where like you walk in, everyone yells your name. And like, I'm just as much to blame. I loved walking into the pub and like when I was gone for a bit and I come back and all of a sudden you see all these faces, Bradley's back. Like it's a good feeling.
Of
But
course.
then eventually you start noticing those conversations with people
Mhm.
and you start realizing like even when they ask you how you're doing, you start to tell them and all of a sudden they're like looking everywhere else and then they're walking away and they're like,
Or they're on their phone.
yeah, like what the fuck is
Yeah.
that about? Like,
So they don't really care. They're not really like tuned into what you're saying.
no, they're acquaintances. They're not actual friends. Now,
Yeah.
some of them, you can still call years down the line and they, hopefully count on them. But it was so interesting to me because cultivate, that's my word of the day today. I enjoyed cultivating friendships with certain people that once in a while when I saw them, I would have a deep conversation with them. And I knew that like even if I didn't see them for 6 months, I could come back and have another conversation like that.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, I just slowly decided that I don't want individuals or energies like that within my realm of life.
No, I agree. And there's something, I think what you just said, like having these like you can have these deeper conversations with people. Sometimes when you meet people, these deeper conversations just it comes so easy. And you're like, oh no, this guy, you could really, have a heart to heart with him. And it feels like your guard is just it's been dropped and you can keep it real with a guy, and you can just talk. It's open and honest. There's like no judgment. And then you meet some people, you're like, maybe if I tell them these things, they're just, like you said, they're walking away, they're over here, they're not paying attention. But there's some people that you meet that you really like instantly. It's a good connection.
Instantly click. Yeah. It's interesting because, we all go through life and sometimes you get, you get bitten and you don't think you are going to.
Yeah.
You meet people and you have to learn from experience and learn from your mistakes of trusting other people that s- to learn someone else's personality as quick as you can when you become friends with them is important, and to see how they are or to hear how they are when you're not around
Mhm.
is important. Or if you have trust issues with other men becoming friends, you almost could sometimes plant little seeds to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And you could say certain things only to that person to see if it comes back to you through somebody else, to see if that's the kind of person they are. And I know it seems maybe like a bit weird for someone to say or do, but I've I've been bitten a few times. Like I've trusted people with information and then found out through other sources that I was like, holy fuck, I can't believe, like, how am I hearing this right now? Only person I said this to is this person.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens. And then it's an unfortunate thing. You're like, ah, man, this person wasn't who I thought he was.
And then the quicker you learn that, the better. But when you do meet someone, and I don't want to say it's rare,
Yeah.
but when you meet someone and the first couple interactions are usually like, hey, how you doing? So on, like you and I, like, we met a few times because you were working at the pub that I frequent all the time.
Yeah.
And then over time, there was a couple like longer conversations. Oh, what do you actually do outside of here? And then you build on that and you kind of see who that person is. And like, you get to see genuinely who they are inside. And then you also can tell by, the company they keep.
Hmm.
That's what is it? You're a direct reflection of the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah. And there's another saying, it's like you're the accumulation of like your top 5 closest people, or there's something like that,
No, I've heard that before for sure.
Yeah.
Which sometimes you have to reevaluate who those top 5 people are.
Yeah.
Like once you start growing as an individual, or once you expand your life to positivity, you have to take stock in what does each one of these people I associate with talk about? What do they uh, like? Do they talk about other people's shit all the time? Are they talking about future plans? Are they just talking about the thing when it comes to like that face value conversation sometimes with individuals that you think are friends? Is the big thing for me, which I've learned, is when the only thing they discuss with you is back in the day, then that's back there, man.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't matter to me at all.
On.
Yeah, if they're not talking about like your future, my favorite thing is like, oh, how's whatever going for you? It's like, I mean, my friends know how it's going for me
Yeah.
because they're aware of it, they're part of it, they're
Keep up
continuing
with
to see about it, But like Tim would never ask you, oh, how's your fighting going?
He knows.
Because he's there.
Yeah, he's
It's a
actually
big
there.
difference.
And, yeah, those are the people that really know.
Yeah. And when these sort of things happen, like with friendships and everything like that, you start to become more mentally strong within yourself to know how to kind of navigate through things in life. You have a big reason to be mentally strong and physically strong because of what you're going after, your goals to become. Now, which class are you hopefully going to be a UFC champion in?
I would like to I'm a welterweight, so I'm 170 pounds, or
Okay.
that's the weight class I compete at.
Okay, so welterweight. So in order to go after your goals and in order to survive as a human being, I believe mental strength is very, very important.
Mhm.
How does someone like yourself, because you seem to be I've said this before, you're a very calm individual. You seem to be on a kind of even keel all the time. I don't really ever see you, except for the job when you have to, or, in the octagon when you have to.
Yeah.
You pretty much, you're cool. You're calm, cool, and collective. How do you stay mentally strong in life and in what you're going after?
I think it's twofold. And there's like the mentally strong when it comes to like my pursuit and like my athletic career is one thing, but then there's the flip side, which is like also like life, how you have to stay like mentally strong for things like that. And I could say for like my athletic career is like I had to do tough things over and over and over. And maybe when I first started fighting or wrestling or anything in combat sports, maybe I wasn't that tough, or especially like mentally strong. But then I'd have to go through a hard practice, have to get beat up a little bit, and then I got a little bit of confidence, like, oh, I can do this. And then I got 5% better, and then I do something a little harder, and then I got 10% better. And like a hard fight like this 2 days ago was a tough fight, and I gained a little more mental toughness through that, especially I know I can take this punishment and I can get beat up and bleed a little bit, and I'm like, "Hey, I can take this. I'm strong enough to withstand this, like, this chaos and this storm of I don't know what's gonna happen to me, and I can build on that and get a little stronger and a little more resilient and keep going and going and going." And then that, for my athletic career, that's very important, especially with something as hard as this.
Yeah, I mean, you are intentionally putting yourself in a situation of getting the shit beat out of you. That's just what it is. It's
Yeah,
who is physically able to either stay standing longer or who has the technique better to knock the person out.
yeah,
Because someone can literally, like, I've seen it, someone can like sidekick you in the right spot in like 10 seconds in the fight and knock you out.
that's it.
And that's just, I don't even know how to, it's just mind boggling.
Yeah, like, man, this, Saturday night, I'm fighting, and I remember going to punch this guy, and he threw a knee, and I'm very fortunate, so fortunate that the knee hit me right here. I mean, if it hit me right here, he might have knocked me out, and, he's throwing these crazy punches and these crazy knees, and man, that could have been it. It's dangerous and it's chaotic, but
But because of the strength training that you've done mentally, to know that, like, for some people, like, if they got hit once, might think they're mentally strong, but that one punch hits something else in their brain that makes them wanna flight instead of fight.
yeah,
So you really have to, like, control or practice at creating that strength in your brain to know that, "Yes, I can handle what's gonna happen for the next 5 rounds of 3 minutes where
mhm,
I may be getting hit in the face, I may be getting kicked, but I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep moving forward until I knock this person down."
yeah.
So since I know with past conversations, you've had parts in your life that have been, difficult to deal with, how do you transfer that mental strength, or how do you build that mental strength up to deal with the harder parts about life?
Yeah, and I can say this, like, the athletic things I've done, they're not the hardest things I've been through in life. Like, my actual real life has been much tougher, and there's, like, because getting beat up, like, they probably can't see on the camera, but, like, my face is it's a little busted
Yeah,
up.
it's all on the other side
Yeah,
right
it's on the
now.
other
Yeah.
side. So I got, like, a black eye, marks on my face and everything, but within 3 days, this will be gone, and, hopefully by Thursday or Friday, I'm back in the gym and working out, and then I'm good, and then I'm fine, and then I'm gonna look for my next fight, but those real life things that are hard, they're gonna be much longer to deal with, whether that's, like, the death of a family member, breakups, hard financial struggles that you have to go through. Those things are much harder and much longer drawn out.
So what do you do in those cases then for your mental strength to navigate through them and keep moving forward and keep building this stronger, not just vessel, but this stronger, consciousness of yourself?
I think it's these again, this is only my personal experience, but it's these small battles that I've won throughout life, whether it's been, athletic career or in my personal life. Like, hey, I made it through this hard time, financially. I made it through that, and I know I can make it through this. I just have to keep my nose to the grindstone and just keep going and keep working. I can make it through this hard financial time, this hard time at work, the death of a loved one, breakups, whatever it might be. Just like keep the course. We've been through tough things before, and if I get through this, I'll be even stronger.
I mean, that's one of the biggest messages that I like to share with people is the fact of your survival ability. And to know, like, I love how you just put that because it's what I believe, that we can't let those hardships or those bad times or those negative situations take over our lives and allow us to keep and allow them to keep us down. Because I used to panic all the time if I lost a job, or even when I lost my dad. Like, it was it's still tough to deal with at times because certain things in life will happen that remind you that you don't have that person anymore
Of course.
and you get emotional about it. But knowing that you're going to be able to get through the tough time, like knowing that, like absolutely believing that inside your brain is, I think, one of the biggest gifts that we have for ourselves to overcome and become mentally strong.
Of course.
Because money has always shown up. Like when I think back about my life, anytime that I've stressed about it, um, I've never not been able to pay my bills.
Yeah.
Right now, sometimes I can admit this, I have borrowed money from some of my closest friends, always letting them know when I can return the money and always returning it on the time that I say I would, because that to me is like, that is more important than anything. Like you have to be a man of your word. And if you're not, I mean, I'm going to lose respect for you. That's just a fact.
I could not agree with you more. If you tell a man you're going to do something, it's like, if you're not a man of your word, what else do you really have? If I tell you I'm going to do something, whether it's like a certain time, a certain date, hey, I'm going to help you out with this, or hey, I'm going to pay you back this money, or hey, if you need money, whatever it might be, hey, if you need a ride, I have to do that, because if I don't, man, I feel
like a shithead if I say I'm going to go to something and that small thought, like I'm very fortunate that my father instilled that in me at a young age, that you have to be a man of your word, which I think we were brought up in that manner, and we're a fair bit of a difference in age, but I think there is a large population of people right now that I want to say would be about 30 years of age and younger that don't quite have that understanding that if someone's like, "Hey, we're going to go do this. Would you like to come?" Be like, "Absolutely. I'd love to be there. Like, I'll be there." And then the day happens and you're kind of like not really wanting to go. I go.
yeah, you go.
Even if I just go for 30 minutes and be like, "You know what, dude, like pull them aside and be like, I really appreciate the invite. I'm just not feeling good today.
Yeah.
I'm going to bounce, but thank you so much. I enjoyed the time I was here." I don't know. I don't know what's happened where people don't understand that. Like maybe sometimes we value this more than others, but how can you not be a man of your word? I think we've lost a great deal of that in people that are, like I said, 30 and younger right now.
Of course. And I'm going to attribute something to my father. How old would your dad be if he was still alive today?
If my dad was still alive today, he would be on April 13th. He would be turning 78.
So my dad would be 79 if he was still alive. So me and our fathers are the same age, and especially for someone like myself, like I wasn't. My dad was 49 when he had me, so he was later in life, and I feel like as he raised me differently than probably most other fathers would raise their children. And as I say that, like my dad had grandchildren before I was born, and he raised me kind of like an old school way because my dad was raised in the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of
Way different.
way different. So he kind of old, like raised me in this kind of old school vibe.
Not as old school, I'm sure. I'm hoping not as old school, but maybe.
He was pretty
Okay.
He was a stickler, man.
Yeah.
But a good guy, great. Like I couldn't man, I couldn't wish for a better father.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like he was a man of God. He went to church. He was a good husband. He was a great father. He didn't run around on my mom. He was always there for the family. Family came first.
My dad was strict and stern, and on occasion we got hit, but he would tell me stories about like him and his twin brother. They'd come home and they got to choose which belt, when they did something wrong, which is what was norm back there.
100%.
Wasn't a big deal. And for us for me getting hit, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't abuse. We learned not to do shit,
Yeah.
because we'd get that. It wouldn't be what we wanted. But my father, absolutely, I wish I appreciated him more than I did when I was a teenager, because I was a teenager and I was kind of selfish. But a family man, took care of my mom, took care of all three of us. Like we had a roof over our head, clothes on our back. We had more than enough food on the table.
Yeah.
And who knows what they were going through? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you don't know what your parents are dealing with. He was such an honest man that, during my faith of Judaism, we sit Shiva for 7 days after someone passes. And the amount of comments from people about how honest he was and how helpful he was and how important his family and his community were,
Mhm.
I grew up most of my life being a very selfish individual, and I've done a lot of things in my life that I wish I was less selfish about. But to aspire to be half the man that he was is literally how I'm trying to live my life now, where showing the people in my family that I care about them, showing people in my community that I care about them, and doing whatever I can to help other people, even people I don't even know,
Mhm.
like their ability to have done what they did back then,
Mhm.
take care of family, take care of home, have a job, teach us properly, like instill these values in us where we're able to like talk about it very freely. And my father was not shy to tell us that he loved us, which for me, I think is like a huge reason I'm the man I am today.
I agree. I agree the same way. My dad would always tell me that. And something I attribute to my father. Because my father had children in his early 20s, and then, he got divorced, and then years went by, he met my mother, and then he decided he never had a son. He wanted to have a son, and that was much later in his life. But I attribute some things my father went through in his life that he would really express his love to me. And it's so important, you know,
Absolutely.
because I know some people in life that I don't know this is a fact, but I don't think like they were expressed, or their parents or maybe the people close to them probably didn't express their like the emotions and the hey I love you or this and that. And I feel like in a way they're a little be a little jaded or a little
Yeah,
closed off.
100%. It's uh, probably a big reason why we appreciate our very close friends the way we do.
Yeah.
And it probably is a big reason why we're able to express to them how we feel about them. And we don't shy away from our emotions, and we're able
Mhm.
to talk to other men in a way that like they know where we stand when it comes to our friendship.
Yeah.
So it's a big reason for
Mhm.
sure. Well, thank you very much, Lindsay, for sharing with us today your thoughts on friendship and mental strength, and even a little bit of conversation about our dads.
Yeah.
Always enjoyable.
Yeah.
I always love reflecting on the things my dad did for me. It's amazing. For everyone out there in the Life Choices land, thank you so very much for coming back each and every week here. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You are now about
The Journey Life Choices podcast.